Welcome, everybody, and happy Monday and happy first day of spring. I'm definitely excited that winter is, I think, over here in Michigan. So I'm tired of being cold and I'm ready to be warm. So as everyone knows, or a lot of people know, my name is Janie Angeli. I am not a doctor or anything of that matter, but I am a person that has gone through cancer. Specifically Hodgkins lymphoma. And so what I'm going to speak with you today about is just based off of my experience, nothing to do with anything that's published or anything of that matter. It's just my personal opinion. First and foremost, I would like to thank Brightbod for bringing us here today. They're allowing us to connect. And in order for us to do that, what we do is we record questions that we have about anything. It could be about cancer. It could be about MS. Who knows? But what you're going to do is you're going to go to brightbod.com and you're going to ask questions. And what's really great is somebody's going to come along that has that knowledge for you, and they're going to answer your question for you. But it's not all the written out mumble jumble. You're going to get a personalized experience here because you are going to video your question and somebody else is going to video answer you back. So that's the great thing about Brightbod. So make sure that you hop on the website and ask plenty of questions. We're all here to help each other out. So today we are going to talk about body image during chemotherapy, which is huge because it's essentially all about who we are, right? So first and foremost, what is body image or self-image? Self-image is how a person views him or herself. Because of the many physical and exceedingly emotional changes that happens after cancer diagnosis, people, they experience a lot of positive, but they also experience quite a few negative changes to their self-image. Now, I feel like myself had a little bit of both. For me, I lost a bunch of weight. Not that I was exceedingly heavy by any means, because I wasn't, but it was kind of nice to be a little extra skinny. Which made me feel really good about myself. But there was a lot of things that didn't. At first, it was difficult for me to lose my hair. It's difficult for not just women, but men as well. So speaking of that, speaking of losing my hair and losing weight, there are an exceeding, there's unending physical changes that happens to you while you're going through this. There's weight gain and weight loss. Surgery scars, otherwise known as battle scars. You get them from your port, or lucky for me, mine were hidden underneath my arm, so you couldn't see them. You couldn't see the physical appearance of my scars. So it was hard for people to tell at times if I was the one actually going through treatment. But they're there, and for some people, it's really rough. For example, people that are going through breast cancer, many people end up losing their breasts, and that can be an extremely difficult experience, since a lot of women associate that with their womanhood, and they feel less like women because they don't have their womanhood anymore, and that can be extremely difficult. There's other things that can happen, like rashes from some of the drugs. So your skin's changing, which can be embarrassing. You don't want to walk around with the rash. And also you feel exhausted and tired, so you don't want to get up and go hang out or do any of those things. There's tons of physical changes, or possibly a need for something like a colostomy bag. So you have to walk around with essentially a poop bag everywhere you go, and that can be embarrassing. Needless to say, you don't want people to question you about your shit. So that can be very daunting and draining. With that, not just the physical changes, but there's also a lot of emotional changes, and those can be good and bad. Some of the bad are sadness or anxiety. Is your treatment working? It can take over, and you can feel angry, and you can feel out of control, and you can also just feel completely and utterly alone. But for some people, it's also a very peaceful and calming experience, and they reflect on themselves, the good things that they have in their lives. So they feel gratitude. And some people find a clarity. They find kind of like a meaning for their lives, a second chance per se. And all of that can be grand and really bring you back as to why you're here in this life, and makes it a little less difficult. But overall, how do we cope with these changes and with our body image and our self-image? First and foremost, it's going to take time. I never got used to being bald, even though I did enjoy it, not having to do my hair every single day, but I always found myself touching my head because it was a weird experience. It's not something I had ever been. I was born with a full head of hair. I had never in my life been bald until that moment. But one thing that also helped was I had built myself a great network of people to be around. And that was my close friends, and those were the people that I also worked with as well. They were very kind and constantly complimentary about the way that I looked, and just very cheerful and concerned, and that gave me a positive spin on dealing with this situation. Also know that you can ask for help, and people will help you. Whether it is going to the mall and maybe buying some new outfits that make you feel good and happy about what is going on, or maybe it's just a friend that is a motivational person to help keep you up to speed and keep going. So whether it's an exercise friend or just a friend that helps you not even think about the situation. So going to funny movies and things of that nature. Talking with people that are in the same situation. Now, at the time, I didn't have any girls that I knew that were going through the situation besides my aunts, who were much older than I was and had cancer years down the road before I did. And I mean, I was young, and I still, even though they went through the experience, didn't feel like they understood exactly what I was going through. So finding somebody that was in the same age bracket as me, even though he was a guy, we still shared that similar experience and similar worries. He had an amazingly epic full head of hair as well, and it can be just as hard for men to lose their hair as it is for women. It's a little more normal because you see bald men all the time, and guys have a tendency to choose to shave their hair. But it was nice that we both felt similarly, and that really helped with my self-image, that I was feeling the same way. And we kind of embraced some humor on it too. When we got to the ending point where both of our eyebrows were pretty much missing, we kind of sat one-on-one on Skype and drew in our own eyebrows. and made fun of the situation at hand. Laughing about it helps and makes that pain go away. Also, remaining active. We kind of just touched on this a little bit, but that doesn't have to mean exercise either. It could just be social activities. So going to like a young professionals event where you meet a whole bunch of new people. When you're around people your own age, they're less likely to act or ask and judge about what you're going through. And in professional settings, they're more interested in getting to know what you do with your life, not necessarily why you don't have hair. That's not the importance of it. People are a little more PC and, as we could say, professional in that manner. So it gives you the ability just to do something that you don't normally do, which really helps kind of, I guess you could say, avoid thinking about cancer, but anything that you could do to not think about it essentially does help with your self-image, because if you're not thinking about it, then it doesn't matter, right? Oh. So that is the end of my slideshow. We're going to open up for questions here. So shoot them out. Anybody want to know anything about how I felt about my self-image, or have questions about how maybe other people feel and what you can do?
This is not a question, Jamie. It's just a compliment. You really look good with your bald head.
Thank you very much. See, I had it easy. When you have a good shaped head.
But how did you feel? How did you feel without any hair on?
Well, at the time I tried to look at the positives of it, but there was moments where I was laying in bed and I didn't bick my head at the time, so it wasn't like completely bald. There was still like the itty bitty hairs. We had just shaved it down with like a beard trimmer kind of a deal. And it was really difficult when I woke up from a nap and that pillow was just covered in hair. So I think that was the hardest thing for me was if I would to do it all over, I would bick it the first time, but the struggle was still seeing it come out. It wasn't actually being bald. Being bald, yeah, didn't really touch on me because, like I said, I was very grateful to have a great shaped head, so I actually looked good bald. But I don't think that killed me too much. But yeah, so bald for me wasn't too bad. I think there was other things that kind of got to me, which was like worrying about my scars and things like that. Luckily, I could hide them with shirts and whatnot, but I wasn't sure how long they were going to be super noticeable and if people were going to ask me down the road when I was better, like, about them. I was nervous at the time to talk about it.
Janie,
Yeah.
something I thought of while you were speaking before, doesn't really have to do with self-image, but I was curious. Did the treatment affect your sleeping pattern at all? I mean, did you sleep better, or did you not sleep as well, or did you notice anything?
Well, one thing that happened a lot was I would wake up in the middle of the night often with really bad leg cramps. So a lot of times I wasn't, excuse me, I have a cold. I wasn't necessarily sleeping through the nights because I was in pain. So if I would move a certain way, all of a sudden my feet or my legs would cramp up. So that definitely happened, and I was tired all the time. I don't really feel like I ever caught up on sleep. So I tried to nap as often as I possibly could, but I mean, the stress of it all, for the most part, didn't allow me to fully sleep through the night until it was all over. But you get used to it.
Okay.
Jenny, how long were you bald for? And
Mhm.
did you find that people stared at you more, or you just felt like they stared at you?
Well, I was always being looked at because I was a bartender, so people were constantly viewing me. But other than that, I I don't know if they were necessarily staring at me, but I got a lot of compliments during that time. I remember going to a Pride event, and during this time in my life, I actually got hit on a lot by girls and and guys. So I found that really interesting. So apparently, everyone thought I was a little more attractive without hair, but it was interesting because people didn't assume that I had cancer, but then again, they weren't sure what way I swung.
Okay. And how long were you bald for?
Oh yeah, sorry. I was bald from April until October.
Okay.
Janie,
Mm-hmm.
what was your, how did you react when you first noticed or when your hair came out? Were you frightened? Were you upset? Did you cry? What was your reaction?
I was in utter disgust. I had really, really, really hoped that I would shave my head before my hair started falling out.
Mhm.
But my friends had planned an event for me to shave my head. And so that
Mhm.
started falling out about 2 days prior to. So at that time, I ended up sticking it up in a bun, and I didn't wash it. I didn't take it out of the bun. I just left it there until we could actually shave my head because it was coming out in like fistfuls. And if I brushed my hair, the brush was just it was covered. And yeah, for the most part, I just found it really gross.
No, but you didn't, I mean, did you cry or how did you react to that?
I didn't cry. I didn't cry until that moment where I had woken up from a nap and I had already shaved my head, that my hair was still falling out, because it's like I had taken control of it, but in essence, it's all still kind of happening. And I don't know if I was just overwhelmed or tired at the time. But I didn't want to have to deal with that anymore. And even though it was still so itty bitty and tiny, I was very upset that it was still coming out and I could still see it. So that's where that night we completely bicked my head so it was like baby smooth, so I couldn't see it fall out anymore.
Okay.
Would you recommend creating an event to shave your head? Was that a good idea?
Yeah, I think it was. One thing that was nice was a whole bunch of people did it with me, so I didn't feel alone, and that I knew that I had people there with me, and that was really nice. So I would recommend it. I had some friends that did this event too, where it was also part of a charity. Well, for myself, I didn't set it up, but people did donate to help pay for my medical costs as well. But yeah, I would recommend an event. I mean, it shows the support that you have, and I wouldn't necessarily even say on the money aspect. We did it as an event just to kind of boost how I felt and celebrate taking control and becoming a survivor. So I would recommend it.
Were there any positive or pleasant surprises from experiences in which people saw your scars and either said something that made you surprised or feel good?
Yeah, when people did see my scars, a lot of times it was in reference or comments about their family members that went through cancer, and um, people would ask me, well, what makes you feel good? How could I help my mother or aunt or father who's going through the situation at the time? It helps you connect with people on a more personal level, even being a bartender at that time. It allowed me to connect with my patrons a little bit more. I mean, it was, yeah, a talking point, and it was something that obviously I was going through, but I don't know, people enjoy connecting with others, and not only does it make you feel not so much alone, but it makes them feel not so much alone either, because there's so many people that are affected by cancer that maybe didn't even go through it, and sometimes they even if they're not going through it and it's a family member, they want somebody to talk to and understand. And I don't know, it is a good talking point. It might be uncomfortable at times, but it fades, and it makes people more human.
Jamie, do you think that you would go bald by choice again, if you had the opportunity to?
If I was asked to, I think I probably would. I'm at a point where I need a haircut anyways, so I mean, if I would do it if a family member or a friend or something was going through it. I would shave my head with them.
Oh, okay. Because I am bald by choice,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and to me, it is, I call myself, that very liberating and confident about myself. That's why I can wear this type of hairstyle, because not everyone can do that,
No, they can't. It definitely takes a very confident person, not to pull it off, but because so many people actually can if they just tried. But to not hide behind something such as a hairstyle, it's your original self. So, way to go! I think that's amazing that you keep your head shaved.
What would you tell somebody who has a problem with his or her self-image, but doesn't really have friends or feel comfortable talking about it with friends? Well, I mean, what could you suggest to them?
There are a lot of Facebook groups or online chat rooms of people who are struggling with self-image. Recently, I found one. It's a lymph node society in a way on Facebook, and so social media is actually so great when it comes for situations like this, allowing people to connect that have gone through similar situations. If you seek help, it's out there. I would suggest trying to find a group or even a local group where you can connect with people that are going through a similar thing, in order to help boost your confidence a little bit, or just talk to somebody that understands what you're going through. As for men and women all together too, I would also say don't shy away from things like makeup or wigs or whatever. I drew in my eyebrows, I did my makeup, and I even put on self-tanner in order to emphasize or de-emphasize the fact that I had cancer. I kind of not necessarily try to hide it, but I upped my features in which I really enjoyed by wearing fun lipsticks and things of that nature, where people would tell me, hey, your makeup looks really good today, and it wasn't necessarily focused on what I was going through. So being a little more focused on trend and makeup and stuff also kind of took my mind off of what I was going through as well. So something fun to utilize and work with.
Well, what should women who lose too much, or if the chemo makes a woman lose a lot of weight, what should she do with the clothes that she no longer fits into?
Keep them. I would keep them until you are done with chemo, because afterwards for me, I didn't gain a ton of weight, but I definitely gained some weight back, a little more than what I thought I was going to. So I fit into those clothes again. I would keep the clothes that you have currently until you are through the process, and because your body's going to fluctuate and change back or turn back, whether it's gaining weight or losing weight once you're done. So I would keep them for a while, and after that, if there's no change or you feel that you just need some new outfits, then you can go ahead and donate them, or donate things like hats and stuff to a local cancer center. To anything that you're not using anymore that you were using through chemo can help somebody else, or somebody that's a little more less fortunate than you.
Jenny.
Yeah.
I was thinking that if someone is after chemo, or yes, when they've lost their hair and everything, if they were in great physical focus on their body and really exercise and did all the things that you do, that people would focus less on the fact that they have no hair, because the whole body would be just looking so good that most people would not be paying attention to the hair, but the person's body and how they're dressed and how they carry themselves. So that would be less of a focal point. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. 100%.
I think that would be, something for, rather than, because I've seen, people and they admiring their physique and everything and not worrying, about the fact that they have no hair. Everything is just
right.
Flows and goes together.
Exactly. No, I completely agree with you, Marilyn. Yeah.
Jamie, is it always a painful thing when you're going through your Hodgkins treatments and stuff like that, during the time that you have the disease?
No, it's not always painful. For me, the majority of the pain was with leg cramping, which lasted for a while, even after treatment. It eventually subsided, but the treatment itself wasn't painful at all. It was less than going to the dentist, honestly. So there's really no pain associated with the treatment itself as I was going through it, but just a little after effects here and there. Sorry.
Janie, is chemo the only treatment for Hodgkin's lymphoma?
No, you can also go through radiation. My doctor chose not to do that with me because radiation has the potential to cause cancer later down the road. And because my infected lymph nodes were in my arm, which were really close to my breast, and my family has a history of breast cancer on both sides, they avoided doing radiation to decrease the chance of me getting breast cancer in the future.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, do we have maybe one more question before we head out today? All right. Well, let's make this a wrap, and thank you all for joining. I love seeing you every week. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, guys.
Bye.